This meeting is being recorded.
I only did the first one of those. Good evening. My name is Mike Gilliard. I serve as the Executive Director of the Kingston City Land Bank. Welcome to our May 23rd of 2022 public board meeting. We do ask that members of the general public limit their comments to no more than 2 minutes per speaker. And with that, I will hand off the meeting to our board chair, Daniel Cantor.
Hi, hello, and welcome everybody to our May 2022 board meeting. It's been an active and challenging month, I'll say. So kind of from the top, we put out our sales and marketing for Greenkill. That house is priced for 80% AMI, and application deadline is, Mike?
June 15th.
June 15th.
Okay, I almost said it and then I thought I'd be wrong. So yeah, we, as I understand, have about 100 new applicants and counting. We, not being me because I was out of town, have been doing a ton of flyering. So thank you guys so much for taking the time outside of this to go do that. The house, by the way, is looking really great. The new front doors are in. I think the windows might be here this week or something. So it's really super close to done. I guess we got approval for our Legacy Cities project budget, so those can move forward. Hi, Erica. So that's great. That was a huge hurdle, and thank you. Huge thanks to Mike and Owen and Erica for getting that across the finish line. We have, I think, reached a pretty good point of kind of negotiation and back and forth with the city of Kingston over securing kind of a reasonable and replicable system of how the land bank would acquire property from the city of Kingston. We talked about it a little bit last time, but essentially it allows for, I think, very significantly that the land bank would initially acquire properties for $1, which would then allow us to sell them and pay the city a portion on the back end. So depending on the use of the property and the income affordability that we're able to sell it at, it's all proportional back to the city. So I think we've basically reached an agreement that we feel good about, and Steve and John Toohey feel good about. And so now it sort of rests with the council. I guess there's a plan to do, Bartek probably knows all about it, to do a more comprehensive housing plan. And I guess this would potentially be part of that. So anyway, that's kind of where that stands, but very cool after this long to kind of reach a point that we actually all agree to, which is amazing. We've hired Katie Dwyer to work on rebranding the organization. So new logo, probably some various upgrades to our website. So I guess that's gonna kind of start with the design committee and then move to the communications committee and then to the full board. So I haven't, we haven't set up a kickoff meeting yet, but that I'm sure will happen this month. Let's see, Franklin RFP went out and came back, and we got, I think, 4 qualified proposals. So we'll be talking about those a little bit later and doing a vote to enter into contract negotiations. So that's coming up. On the Legacy Cities projects, we got a little bit of a curveball because it turns out 3 of the 4 houses are in some sort of historic area. So either the heritage area or the landmarks area or the rundown heritage area. There's a bunch of them. But so essentially those 3 need to go through a couple different rounds of approval basically to approve any exterior work on the house. So that's in process. I think Owen and Mike have scrambled and pulled together everything that we needed to submit. Architects signed off, so it's all in process. We do not anticipate that it will change our timeline. So that's good. And lastly, I think I will stumble through this a little bit. We are down a board member, Alana Berger, decided to resign from the board. So part of what that means is that we have a board vacancy. So we're going to start doing outreach for new members probably tomorrow. We'll do a 30-day period to get applications. This, I think, is a result of some painful experiences. And I don't want to pretend that I can explain them as well as some other voices in the room. But it's hard. And I think everyone's doing their best to manage this sensitively and clearly, I guess. So I neglected the fun part at the beginning where we have to list our physical addresses. So let me just backtrack and do that, I guess. Daniel Cantor, I'm at 142 Clinton Avenue. Bob, tell us where you are.
Bob Dennison, I'm at 122 Wilson Avenue.
Minya,
Minya DeJohnette at 258 Main Street.
Nate,
Nate Hennigan at 20 President's Place.
Bartek,
Bartek Stardai, 354 South Wall Street.
William,
William Drake at 60 Cedar Street.
and Aaron.
An Amtrak train arriving in Rhinecliff in about an hour.
Be safe. Thank you. Okay, so we actually have members of the public tonight. Hi, everybody. So we do a public comments period. It's going to be monitored by Minya now, right? Is the comments chair? Okay.
It's
I'm
been a
going.
while since we've done it, but we
I
will,
know.
Andy and I will work together. Could I ask
Not-
one question?
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a new person, I think, that signed up with the initials MLT. Would that person mind identifying themselves?
That's Monique Tinsley.
Oh,
Hi, I'm Monique Tinsley.
nice to meet you. Welcome.
Thank you for joining us. So yeah, we asked limit to 2 minutes per speaker, and in no rhyme or reason particular order, the floor is open.
We also have public comments at the end of the meeting. So if you learn anything throughout the meeting and you want to jump in at the end, that's available too.
Yeah.
May I ask a question? Just wondering about the board opening. How is that being advertised? Is that new? Is that new today, or? Because I haven't seen it yet, so I was just wondering if a public, notice was going out about it.
Yes, all of this is pretty new information, so we haven't really had time to figure out all of our outreach yet, but you will know. Everyone will know. Yeah, kind of reacting in real time. So should we move to executive director's report?
Let's say public comments is closed for now. We'll revisit it. Okay, thank you, Daniel. Good evening, everyone. I will not rehash many of the great points in the past month that Daniel had summarized at the top of the meeting. To add maybe a little more context or add additional context within our pipeline, just for awareness, we began this round of conversations with the City of Kingston in February. And at the time, it was estimated that we could receive as many as 12 new properties from the City of Kingston through future foreclosures that at the time I don't believe had commenced. As Daniel mentioned, the process has moved forward, but just to be specific about the dates, on May 10th, we agreed to a framework with the city, and then we're informed that it was part of a larger, more broad conversation that the city is attempting with the council related to, I believe, generally acquisitions and dispositions within the city framework. And then just wanted to offer Nate, since at least in recent memory, you've been leading many of the conversations around this. Was there anything else you wanted to add around the conversation with the city?
No, I think we're all just really excited to see this reduced to writing and get in front of the council so that we can get a steady pipeline moving and get more properties that we can work on.
Cool, thank you. So we currently have 8 properties that are in pre-development. Just to put it into buckets, as Daniel mentioned, the Legacy Cities is 4 homes, and this morning we did receive the board approval through the state. This begins the process of moving towards closing. So we have many things to do, and some of which Daniel mentioned within the city itself and now with the state. And I wanted to give a big shout out to Kyle and Erica and Owen and Daniel and all of us that are working towards this closing. We have many things coming up between now and what I hope is June to close on these homes. And now we're finally able to engage directly with the state and begin that process. So stay tuned for any updates, but I still do hope that it will happen in June. The next 3 properties that still fall into our TBD category under the pipeline, properties under pre-development, would be Gill, Downs, and Henry. I believe we have some discussion coming up at the committee level about one of those properties. And then the final property under our pre-development pipeline remains 151 3rd Avenue. I have given updates for several months related to outreach that I have conducted to try to settle the outstanding issues with the contiguous property so that it could be donated to us. As was proposed by the landowner, that issue still remains. And while I reported last month that an offer to settle was submitted, I've been unable to get back in contact with the parties involved. And so I will continue to try to push on that and provide updates when I have them. Moving down to construction, I will be brief, other than to say we are still on schedule for certificate of occupancy on 149 Greenkill in July. So kudos to Owen and the design committee and Daniel in particular, but the design committee as a whole for helping us with this project and seeing it through on schedule. And at 124 Franklin, as Daniel mentioned, we have some stuff to talk about at the committee level related to the RFP for the general contracting work. Don't want to steal the thunder from other committees, so I'll just say on the sales campaign, many great updates to come on the committee level. I will mention that we have begun the weekly conversations that we have with the 2 homeownership counseling organizations that we're working with. This is Hudson River Housing and Pathstone. So we're excited to have those be underway. And then another update related to the potential sale of properties is on 24 Hamilton. This property, we entered into a license agreement on March 17th of this year. That was a 90-day agreement. And we received a request to actually extend that agreement by another 30 days. I do believe the respondent, the potential purchaser, is still moving forward as fast as they can with all the things that are needed for them to be ready to close on construction financing and pull a building permit and begin construction on the home. I do think it just highlights that this process, especially for someone who maybe is doing this for the first time, can be somewhat slower than we all hope that it would be. But I do think it's still moving forward in a timely fashion. And I will have another update next month, hopefully some additional good news on the progress on that property. Under the funding updates category, the Legacy Cities subsidy grant, following the state's approval this morning, we should be receiving the second payment under that grant agreement. Thank you to Erica for setting up the bank accounts so that the money can go in the right place. That is my update on legacy cities in terms of the funding side. The ARPA stimulus funding, I have no further updates. It was approved, I believe, by the council in middle of April, the city's plan for that funding. And I still believe that we are several months, if not possibly a year out from really engaging around the particulars, but I will keep it on the agenda just for the sake of providing updates if I do have any. And finally, the Kingston Housing Opportunity Fund, which came to the board, I believe, in March, and then was presented to the Nova Foundation in April, has been summarized, packaged at Novo's request, submitted to them. It's not a formal request for funding, and we're waiting to hear back on next steps. So hopefully next month, I have some updates on the status of that program. Just for context, it was initially our goal to make a funding application sometime around June. So we're still on schedule for that, and I remain hopeful that we will continue to be so. But that's my update on the funding side. On the other side, I have a couple of housekeeping type things. I know I've been sort of being really annoying about team photos or photo headshots for everyone. I think given the context of some changes at the board level, I think that we should push it off a little bit. So I did have someone lined up and was going to say, okay, I'm sending a doodle poll. I think I'll hold off a little bit on that and wait till everything is settled, but I'm not going to let go of it. And I do look forward to doing that. So stay tuned on that. And then the last thing I would mention, just a reminder that Erica, Owen, Kyle, and myself are going to Syracuse June 8th, 9th, and 10th. And we will be available, and you can always reach us, but we're going to the Land Bank Association, the New York Land Bank Association's annual conference, which has not been held for quite some time, but we'll come back with all sorts of new information and ideas and let you know how that went. Maybe we'll do a little report after we come back. Those are my updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that ice cream truck in the background. I don't know if you can. It's Mr. Dingalong's come back. All right. Bob, acquisition, disposition, and construction.
All right. We have a couple things here, and I'll depart the text a little bit at the end, but let me, Franklin. So thank you, Owen. We received proposals from 4 contractors for finishing the work on Franklin. And what we're going to recommend to the board, the AC and ADC committee, I guess, is going to recommend to the board that we authorize Mike to enter into negotiations with the second lowest bid. And the reason, there's a couple of reasons for that. Let me go into it a little bit. The first bid, the lowest price bid was not really a complete bid. They left out some things and it wasn't a complete bid. So we're going to consider that to be an informal bid. The second bidder is the one that we'd like to award to. They're from Poughkeepsie. It's called Nailrite. It's a WBE, NBE firm. Their price is reasonable. And we'd like to recommend to the board that that we authorize Mike to enter into negotiations with them for a contract for an upset price. Now, the upset price, we talked a lot about that, and I'll defer to Mike. Do we want what kind of a number do we want to say? Now, this is the budget price. This does not mean that we're going to necessarily enter into an agreement with them for this number, but we want to give Mike some room to negotiate, and we want to provide a little area for possible contingencies in the event that we discover something during construction that we didn't see that's going to cost us more money, so that we don't have to come back to the board for more money. So what we'd propose is that we someone make a motion that we authorize Mike to enter into a negotiations with Nailrite Construction for the completion of our Franklin, of 124 Franklin, at a budget price not to exceed, what was the number, Mike? I want to say 220.
If we're going to state it at the public meeting, I would just highlight that there were discussions around taking this to executive session, only due to the sensitivity of negotiations, that there were other items that could possibly go into executive session tonight. But if you'd like to discuss the price, including the cushion for negotiations, is roughly $232,000.
And that is not, yeah, I want to be very clear. That is not the price that we're necessarily going to pay Nailrite. That's the price that we're authorizing Mike to negotiate to It also provides a contingency in the event that we find something that we didn't anticipate that's going to require additional money. And it could be additional contractor. You know, we don't know hopefully we will not find anything. I mean, that's the goal. But you know, better to be careful, better to be sure than sorry, I believe. I mean, I'll defer to, well, we said the number, so that's good. Now we can go forward and we can, and Daniel can ask for a motion to accept their, to authorize Mike to enter into negotiations. If you so desire to ask for that resolution, Daniel.
I would love to entertain a motion to authorize Mike to enter into negotiations with Nail It Right Construction at a price not to exceed $230,000 for the $232,000, I said, for the completion of 124 Franklin.
I second it.
All in favor of?
Well, is there anybody got a question? Is there any question? Now would be the time if anybody has a question to pursue it.
So I assume last time we had bids that were way over the budget. So I assume now this is in line with our expectations.
It's a much more reasonable bid. The last time the bids were very, very high, I would say. The bid, and there also was fewer of them. We did not have, so I have to give Owen credit for getting more people interested to bid on it. So there were fewer bids and they were much higher. So this is more reasonable.
Just want to make a brief comment before you vote. If that's all right. Just I heard Bob, you say that this might be inclusive of our contingency, but I just want to clarify that this is before we establish a construction contingency. So this is what we're hoping to enter into a contract with the general contractor to do the scope that we have scoped already. So I just want to make that clarification. But as you asked about, it's like $200,000 less than our high bid from the last round. So that's a big improvement. And we have expended, and this is off the top of my head, but somewhere around $70,000 since then doing work on the building. So, but we still have a big gain over our previous outlook on the building.
Great, thank you, Owen.
It's basically correct to say that this would put that house budget-wise right in line with the other four, right?
Yep. Yes.
Yes.
And just another question, which is, do we have any idea of when they would start?
They
Yeah,
have
it start of July this year.
And then they have a proposed completion date of September.
Which is aggressive, but
Yeah.
let's say completion date of
September.
2022.
of this winter.
And part of that will be part of the negotiation as we go forward, you know, before we sign the contract, there'll be a completion date. So, all right, where are you, Daniel?
I don't know. I think, is there more discussion needed?
Yeah, so he's saying that this is gonna be the set for all the houses as 200,000. We won't go higher than that on the bids, right?
I don't know if I mean, we'd certainly like to stay there. And I don't know. Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's an interesting point. I hadn't thought about. Mike, what do you think about that?
I think technically what we're doing is authorizing me to negotiate up to a point, and if it were to exceed that, then I would come back to the board and make a presentation about why we got higher than that. So,
And it's just for this one house, the vote you're going into.
yes.
Yeah, and part of the reason that we don't cap all, I would not recommend capping all of our houses at 200,000 is that if we're successful with our negotiations with the city and we can get houses less expensive, then, you know, it gives us more room instead of paying for back taxes that drive up the price of the house, or, you know, it's a flexible thing. And if the taxes owed are high, you know, then that's going to affect the selling price. You know, our goal is to be able to sell these at 80% of AMI or somewhere in that range. So we have to, and we want the house to be complete.
Yeah.
So if we get the house for less money, we can spend more money renovating it, you know, and if we got the house for more money, then that cuts into how much room we have to renovate and still sell it where we want to sell it as affordable. You know, we don't want to get, you know, we gotta watch how much we spend on the house as a total, you know. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, because all the houses are different. What years are the houses?
Right.
Like,
This one's been empty
you
40
know,
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and this one probably, you know, and also if we get them, if the deal comes through with the city and we get them before they've sat there for 5 or 10 years, you know, it'll cost us a lot less money
Yeah.
to fix them. You know, this one's been empty for 40 years. I mean, this one's got some big, you know.
Yeah, 40 years, you said?
40 years, they tell me, yeah. So it needs a little work, as you can imagine. So,
You know,
go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, if you know one Kingston City Land Bank hard cost budget, you know one Kingston City Land Bank hard cost budget. They're all the buildings are different, as Bob said.
Right.
You have to bid it out each time.
Yeah, and the condition's different. You know.
Yeah.
Our hope is that we get them sooner before they're really, you know, before they're wrecked.
Yeah, you know, you got foundations that can be wrecked in them, and
yeah, and all the mechanicals, you know, so we had some of them where they didn't turn the water off, so all the heating system is shot. You got to do a whole new heating system. You know, that's sooner we get them, the better. The sooner we get them, the cheaper they'll be to renovate.
Yes,
I guess. Okay.
Nice wishful thinking, Bob. I love your positivity.
So you're looking for a vote, Daniel?
Wherever, yeah. Yeah, so we have a motion, we have a second.
yeah, I second it.
Okay, so all in favor of authorizing Mike to enter into negotiations with Nail Right Construction at a price not to exceed $232,000 for the renovation of 124 Franklin. Show of hands.
Aye.
I believe that's a unanimous passing. Thank you, everyone. Mike, go for it.
Okay, now we get to deal with 111 Downs. Now, 111 Downs, we asked for bids or proposals to renovate the garage, to replace the roof, which is shot. And then we started to look at what do you really have to do to that roof? And it started to get to be more and more expensive. And we had selected a contractor to do that work, or recommended one. And then we had a long discussion about what are we going to do with that building. And what we talked about at the committee meeting was making that a pathway for building, which means that we would sell it, not renovate it, sell it, because it's really too big a building to cut into to make it affordable housing. I mean, it's a giant Victorian that's in not as horrible shape as many of the others. So we think the best, if we could spend a lot of money renovating it, but then somebody would have this jumbo house with one bathroom that would cost you an arm and a leg to take care of. And we didn't see a path to get it to be an affordable housing building. So we talked at the committee that it might be a better way to go to sell it, take the proceeds from that and spend that money renovating a house that could be an affordable house, one of the other ones. So we talked about, to make it saleable, one of the things we wanted to do is to clean it out, because it's got a bunch of junk in the basement and in the attic, and a lot of the details are in good shape inside that building, but it needs a roof, it needs paint, it needs the porch rebuilt, you know, it needs work. So I guess that's a long way to get to the short story. So what we are recommending is that the board authorize the two things. One would be a contract not to exceed 5,000. And we already have a low bidder who is going to do the garage, who is capable of doing the clean out. We've used him before. He does a good job. Owen will have to tell me his name because I've forgotten it in front of me. And go ahead.
Villa Forte.
Forte. Okay. And he's done work for us before. We're happy with him. He does a good job. And then to authorize us to move forward on a pathway for sale of the building in the next couple months. We don't want to do it at the same time that we're doing Greenkill, but sometime after that, maybe late summer or fall. Mike shaking his head. Okay, that's doable. That's good.
Just thinking about the timelines between Greenkill and Franklin sales, so that would fit in there.
Right. So because right. So the proposal from AC and AD and C, or whatever the committee is that the board authorize us to Mike to enter into a contract with Fuente to clean the building out, and we begin the process of making it a pathway for sale building. Did I get that right? Aaron's on the phone. Yeah, so he was at the meeting. I'm trying to think that.
I think it's technically okay if I do the contract for the clean out without the board's approval, just because of the amount.
It's less than
But
5. Yeah. Right.
Moving forward with the pathway 4, I think would be the request.
So we're looking for a resolution to allow allow that building to be moved forward on a pathway 4, which is a sale.
I would just add, Bob, that looking at this building, it's so big, and so a big part of this decision too is just we can't afford to renovate this thing. Like,
right,
it's double the size of most of our houses, and they already cost $250,000 a piece. So it's just
right. The goal would be some
practical. So
the goal is for somebody who has the technical skills to do it, to buy it and renovate it, and ideally live in it. But if they can't, but if they don't live in it, at least sell it for. It is an eyesore. It's got to get taken care of. But it is big, and inside it's nice. I mean, pocket doors and fireplaces. I mean, it's kind of at one time many years ago, it was quite a beautiful building. And it's been empty for 6 years, 7 years. Anyway,
something like that.
long time.
So I'm seeking.
Can I make the motion? I can make the motion if you
I
want.
would love if you made it.
Okay, I want to move that the board authorize, or just I guess authorize. Decide that this building should be treated as a pathway 4 building and sold to sold. I guess we leave it at that. Because we really don't want to say, I don't want to say sold to the highest bidder, because I want to make sure that we look at an RFP and make sure that somebody, we don't want to just flip it to somebody who's not going to do the right thing by the building, So we want to sell it, and we want a proposal from somebody. So I guess the resolution would be that the board authorizes this building to go pathway 4, and for us to receive proposals for it to be transferred to a buyer sometime later this year. How's that? That ambiguous enough? I don't know.
I think that's good.
Okay.
It will be a mission-oriented decision.
Yeah.
The disposition.
Right. Yeah, we don't want we don't want somebody to come in and renovate it and flip it for, ignoring our mission. Right.
So Bob has made a very succinct and elegant motion. Does anyone want to second that?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Oh, thank you. Okay, all in favor of moving forward with 111 Downs as a pathway 4 project?
You always skip the discussion part, but go ahead.
We just did it.
What if somebody had a question? All right, I'm good with that.
Can you just explain to me what is pathway 4? Just let me know what is that?
So
See, I knew there'd be questions.
that's a great question. I hate when Bob is right. Pathway 4 is as is sale.
Okay.
So yeah, like Bob said, we got these bids for the garage and then sort of sat back like, okay, but then what? And realized we should really just sell it. Pathway 1 is when we rehab. Pathway 2 is when joint venture. What's 3 again?
3 is as is sale for affordable housing. And pathway 4 is community good. So there would be benefits that fit within our mission. For example, historic renovation and back on the tax rolls are both aspects of our work.
Okay.
It'll make a nice historic, actually, it'll be a nice historic building when it's done. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, part of it, William, we got bids for the garage reconstruction. They were like $18,000.
Yeah.
By the time we were done. Yeah. And it's, you know, so we're going to spend 18 grand on this thing. And we still have the house to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand.
Yeah. So it's getting crazy. So. All right.
So sorry, do we?
Now you can vote. I'm trying to pick on you, Daniel. I'll have to be. Robert's rules. I'll get you a book. I'll get you a book of Robert's rules so you can.
Okay. I already stole Mike's, but I'll take a second. True story. I just took it. All right. So we now are voting to proceed with drafting an RFP to sell 111 Downs as is as a pathway 4 project.
Aye.
Okay, you're good.
I think, William, how are you voting for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry. Just yes, thumbs up.
Okay.
I have one last thing, Daniel, and then I'll leave you alone and
just do it.
Alana, who resigned. Before she resigned, she had reached out to, and we had a short conversation with the Lawyers for Civil Rights. Is that the name of the organization? It's an organization out of Washington that does civil rights housing work. And they agreed to draft for us, just to look at and think about, a proposal for to use as part of our disposition policy for selecting home buyers that includes a civil rights element. And they said they would draft this for us to look at. And so they've reached out to me after they talked to her that she resigned. They reached out to me and said, are we still interested in receiving this information? And I said, yes, send it along, we'll read it. If they have a way for us to do that, that's legal. And that is to say, if they have a way for us to tailor our sales to people who are presently underrepresented in the home sale market, in the home ownership market in Kingston, that would be good. So I said, send it, we'll read it. We're no commitments. We just, let's see what they have to say about that. I don't believe, from what everybody said, I don't think it's legal to do that. But,
And Bob, just to clarify, this has to do just with the local preference, right?
It has to do with the local preference. That's correct. So, I said I'd read it. So we'll read it. And anybody else who's interested in reading it, certainly will make it available, and we'll go from there. I don't know if it's going to change anything, but they're supposed to be experts. I don't know.
Yeah. Bob, I'd like to see that when you get it. And it's for everyone's just reference, it's the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. They're a nationwide legal civil rights organization that's highly respected and has been around for a long time.
Yeah. So, I figured nothing ventured. We'll take a look at it, but may not amount to anything, but it's worth a read. And having Nate read it, we actually have a lawyer read it. That would be even better.
Yes, yes, right.
So, and that's all I have, Daniel. So thank you.
Thank you. I think maybe a slight amount of additional context is helpful. So I think it's okay to say that, the Kingston City Land Bank was pretty clearly designed for the Kingston community. And obviously many community members would like for us to limit applications only to Kingston residents. So we have explored that for 3 years, and the challenge is fair housing law and not running afoul of it and getting dragged into a lawsuit that would basically kill the organization with the time and resources it would take. So the way that we know how to do it is through targeting our local outreach and keeping it very local and trying to get the word out as much as possible. I think we're doing much better at that this round than the last round. But yeah, it's not the most satisfying answer, but it's kind of what we have right now, unless someone can tell us differently. So
Yeah, I will also want to be clear, this is not going to affect the Greenkill sale at all. I mean, the Greenkill sale's on its own track, and will, this is for maybe later someday, and it won't affect the legacy cities either, I believe. I mean, they're pretty prescriptive on how we can sell the houses in legacy cities, if I'm not mistaken. But what you guys have done with targeting those people that are interested is the key. I think, from what everybody says, that's the key to getting more local participation, more local people opportunities, which is what we're looking for. So we'll see. But so.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob. Owen, did you have construction updates?
Of course. I'll be brief, but as Daniel mentioned, Greenkill is about to receive its windows, which will bring us into the end game at 149 Greenkill. It will be our 4th completed house, and also my favorite house to date that we've worked on. So I'm very excited about that. Coming to close, Franklin Street, as you know, we had a previous RFP for a general contractor where we received responses, rejected them, and then did some work, and now I put it back out. Just to give context on that project, I reached out to more than 85 contractors for that house. 11 RSVP'd to walkthroughs, 8 came to walkthroughs. And then 4 submitted formal written responses. So I think it's great that we connected with a couple of GCs that we haven't received GC proposals from on this. And as I mentioned to the AD and C committee, I called the references for Nail It Right today, and they were enthusiastic about it, about that company. So I feel really good that we're kind of gotten a project that was, a property that was stuck even before we got involved with, but then was kind of stuck as we tried to figure out how to deal with it. And now it's, I think, feeling like we're going to get it unstuck and moving forward this year, which is really exciting. And then Legacy Cities, my work recently has just been helping Rob and Kim and Daniel as well to kind of cram our scope on these 4 buildings into the budget that we have got moving forward and approved. And so I'm feeling positive about that as well. So that's all I have to say about construction. And any questions about what's going on with construction from the board? All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Owen. Okay. Finance, Nate.
Great. Hi, everyone. I assume, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, is the April financial report included in the agenda for people to have?
Yes.
Okay.
In the
'cause
board
I
pack.
Right. I can share my screen, but I think it's easier for people to read it if you have it. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone has it available. It's included in the agenda, but just the board package or the public agenda as well?
It's only included in the board's package of materials for the meeting. The agenda itself references the
Okay.
discussion, but I can tell you what page it's on.
All right.
Beginning
I'll
on
share-
page 11.
I'll share my screen then, just because I want to make sure that that report is available. Here we go. Okay, can everyone see that? Okay, so this is our April financial report. Nothing major to note here, so I will try to go through it fairly quickly. But here are some of the top line financial narratives. We had a couple of small donations that came through in the last month. In terms of the expenses, our biggest non-personnel related expenses were project expenses for MEDA, about 61,500 for Greenkill, and then 8,700 also at Greenkill. And then there's also a note about some legal prepaid expenses, but I'll get to that when we get to that point in the report. So our profit and loss report, our operating income, you'll see that is expressed as a negative number. That's only because of the timing. There's nothing really going against that income. So it's just sort of drawing down from our big income that comes in at the beginning of the year, where Novo gives us that large grant for the entire year. But because this is just a snapshot of the month, that shows as a negative net operating income. You'll see it also shows those large property related expenses for Greenkill. What else? Our overall balance sheet, we're in a very good position with cash. I know this number looks high, as it always does, but this is all obligated for our ongoing projects. The 500,000 pledge receivable that you see here, that is going to be for the new bank account. We're going to be creating an LLC for the Legacy Cities projects. It's going to come from the general account and go towards that separate banking account. We'll also be getting separate accounting reports, a general one like the one we typically get each month, and then one for that separate Legacy Cities account going forward. There's that note about the legal prepaid expenses. There was that's going to be adjusted as a result of the audit, but there was because of timing and the legal retainer that we pay each month, it shows as a negative expense in this particular report. But overall, we're in very good financial shape. Again, here's our total liabilities. Statement of cash flows. Any questions? Please stop me if anybody has any.
I just wanted to point out the bank account is open. I apologize for not sending you. I apologize for not sending you an email. I took off on Thursday, but did continue to make sure it went through on Thursday, and it slipped my mind. So we do have the new bank account open. The receivable, as you stated, will be reduced from the Kingston City Land Bank so that you won't see that on the financials, and then we'll do the journal entry. We'll acknowledge a receivable for the new LLC, and the chart of accounts have already gone into the system, and moving forward, you'll have full financials that will go to you on the 10th of each month. So I apologize for not giving you that update.
No worries. Thanks, Erica. So our budget versus actuals, you'll see for almost all of our categories we're still under budget, which is good. No major call outs here. Overall, we're in very good financial shape. I'll just slowly go through, but if anyone wants to jump in with any questions, please feel free. And that's about it for the monthly financial report. Erica, correct me if I'm wrong, but as of our last update, there still hasn't been any new updates from the auditors yet. Is that right?
So they emailed me on Wednesday of last week asking for, I think, about 4 different items. So we addressed them, and we just have to follow up with them.
Great. That's moving along. And then the last final note I wanted to mention is that we've been instituting better coordination between the ADC and Finance Committee. So that's been chugging along so that, everything that we discussed dealing with, the negotiations for Mike to negotiate with contractors and things like that, we've had a lot more coordination. So that's going to be helpful going forward, certainly for me as the lone person who's not on both committees. But otherwise, yeah, we're all good. Any questions on financials?
I'll entertain a motion to accept the monthly treasurer report.
Seconded.
Any discussion, Bob? I had to do it.
No discussion. I know you had to do it. and I'm going to say something to make you pay for it. Nate, we've changed our process to send before the ACD committee does anything, is to send it to financials before we bring it to the board. And we probably should refine that, but I'm glad that you mentioned it because I think it's an important process change. How's that, Daniel? See?
I think that was good, actually. For one, no, I'm just kidding.
No, thanks, Bob, and I second that. We'll figure out a way to better streamline that process, and so it's a little more uniform. But I'm glad that we got the ball rolling on that.
I think part of the impetus too is the potential that we'll start to acquire a lot of properties fairly quickly, and so Down Street Garage, while we sort of aborted the project, was kind of an instance of, rather than doing these huge full rehabs, we're going to have, smaller buckets of money going around to stabilize properties and stuff like that. So we should probably have a good process in place to do it. So
I think another part of it is seeing that cash balance, right? And then having that reminder that it's obligated. So kind of just circles back. Thanks.
Exactly. So, shall we vote to accept the monthly treasurer's report? All in favor? Aaron, did you vote for the record?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. I believe motion passes unanimously. Counting votes on Zoom, still terrible. All right. Fundraising, Aaron.
I'm gonna turn off my video. Maybe it'll be easier. I don't have many updates. I dropped the ball this past month, but I need to circle back with Minya and Nate and William to discuss kind of a plan for the months ahead and the rest of the year. The two things I wanted to note is that at Minya's suggestion, and there's a good one, we decided to push back the landscaping day at Greenkill from June 18th to June 25th. So it's going to interfere with a bunch of other community events that are taking place around Juneteenth that weekend. And I will say that just talking to handing out those little cards with info about it, people are interested in the idea of being able to go through the home. So I think if we can, as we do marketing and spread the word, it's not directly a fundraising thing, but I don't know, I'm looking forward to that day, I suppose. That's all I'm saying. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that next Saturday, we will have a booth at the farmers market in Uptown. And I will be there all morning into the early afternoon. And people are welcome to join for as little as long as they would like. I can just send me an email, or I can send people my cell phone number, and we'll just be talking about what we're up to, handing out those cards, and then also accepting donations for basically buying down the home, buying down the price of the Legacy Cities homes to make them even more affordable. That's all I have for today. I don't know if Minya, if you have any other updates. I know that most of the focus right now has been on spreading the word about Greenkill.
She did have some updates.
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Erin. I just wanted to address something, and it's something that we might have to address in the future, just with public relations, is the issue of some of the people that we might end up taking money from. And I just wanted to address that head on in just terms of fundraising, that some of the people in the community that we might end up receiving funds for, or just assistance with some of our supplies or help with that, are people that do a lot for other community organizations and have done so for many years. And so just to deal with a possibility of criticism of that down the road, if we did not accept that, there were other organizations that would probably have to be questioned too. And I just wanted to address that, because that might be something that comes up. And as it comes, we can always bring it up to the surface. But you know, it would be great to crowdsource and crowdfund all of our funding, but unfortunately, with the amount of money that we have to come in to invest into the houses and to all the supplies that we have, it's just not a reality right now. So I just wanted to say that right now while we were in the situation we are in.
I really appreciate you saying that, and I think, and I because I didn't know whether to bring it up tonight. I definitely think you're absolutely right. Just given the amounts, but then also just we can't try to avoid every kind of controversy that takes place within every aspect of Kingston. I think that on a case by case basis, maybe there'll be people and situations that would say, you know, maybe at a different time, but for now we're not going to get involved and not accept a donation. My feeling is people that we've discussed so far, support is support, and the homes are but it'll be an ongoing conversation as we discuss particular donations in the future. It's not one to like to end too quickly, because we need to keep it open.
Thanks, Erin.
Could I ask just one question for the landscaping event? And maybe this is what we're already planning on doing, but can we just outright monetize the house tours? Sort of like how the design showcase does that. Is that what we're planning on doing?
No. So my concern with doing that is I think we're going to get a lot of people who are interested in or are in the process of applying for the homes and want to look at it. So I mean, that's the reason I didn't think we should monetize that process. I think we should ask for donations during the event from people, but allow people to go through the home because they also are in the process of applying. That's my sense, but I'm open to others' opinions.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. But just noting that the actual event is after the application deadline. So are we making the home available to anyone that wants to see it, or is that not, are we not doing that?
My understanding, Aaron, is that we're making it accessible to anybody that wants to see it. And as we're handing out flyers, people are, it's one house, like everybody says. And we're telling people that if they apply, there are other houses coming down the pipeline, so they can at least see what a house looks like that might be finished, or if they have applied and they haven't figured out, if they haven't heard back yet, then they at least get to see, get a walkthrough tour, but also see what we do, meet us as well, meet more than just the folks that are handing out flyers, but get to know us because they don't really know most of the board. So I think being open and just doing suggested donation is a great idea that way, and allowing everybody who wants to come see it. That's
Cool. Thank you. I agree. Mike has a thing.
Sorry, I just wanted to add one other item in the board package relates to the fundraising. Specifically, Erica put together a great individual Give Gab how-to guide, and I just wanted to highlight that for future reference. It's in there, it's great. People can explore it and use it, but hopefully that leads to future conversations. So just want to mention it.
I'm sorry, I'm shoving my face with
Oh, sorry, I got you at the wrong time.
I'm
Thank
shoving
you very much.
M&Ms because this is my dinner. But I would like to say that, especially because we have community members on the call, there is a great opportunity for you guys, if you're interested, to start your own campaign. So when you're on the Give Gab website, it says select a fundraiser. When it says no fundraiser, that means that's for the Kingston Land Bank itself, or you can actually set up your own, and it's really cool because you can make your own, almost like Facebook or Instagram. You can put your own goal and start distributing that to your community or your Facebook groups, and kind of like work this process with us to fundraise, which is really exciting. So thank you.
Yeah, the email that Erica put together is super, super helpful and very detailed. So please look at it. I think also, I don't think have we set a board?
I
did. Thank you.
So we talked about it last year during our fundraising committee, our fundraising committee meeting. So as a preemptive, I set up our goal, a board goal of 50,000, because last year's was 30,000, and we did such an amazing job at like really hitting that number. I think especially with the outcomes and the success with the houses that we've produced and everything that's kind of in the works, I don't think that 50,000 is a far reach. We just have to continue, we're 5 months into the year, we just have to continue to push, because that $20,000+ that came in was really in December. That was that was a quick campaign. So I think there's a possibility of actually exceeding that amount. And as far as the community members go as well, if anyone has any trouble setting up the Give Gab fundraiser, feel free to email me and I can walk you through the process.
I have a question.
Thank you, Eric. Oh.
I have a question. Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Go ahead.
Oh, for fundraisers, like, could we do raffles to raise money?
We could. We never have.
So the difficulty with raffles tends to be that we have to get we have to be able to raffle something off, right? As far as our organization goes, that means we need to build relationships with other vendors in the area to see if there's opportunities to maybe raffle off a local gift card. Otherwise, we try to just encourage a mission-based approach, that our mission is to close the gap with some of the funding that we have from anything that's not covered by a grant. We'd like to use our fundraising resources to do so, to complete the homes. But there's tons of different ways to continue to fundraise. So if we can get gift cards or any sort of contributions that of some sort of monetary value that we can raffle off, that would be awesome.
And William, I'll just say that it's definitely something we can do. I mean, I only joined the board in January, but it's not something we've discussed like in the past few committee meetings. But let's me, you, Minya, and Nate get together at the next committee meeting and talk about what that would look like. Because
Yes.
it's absolutely something we can do. I mean, we're kind of at this point. My sense, I mean, I've never really, led a fundraising campaign before. I don't think any of us entirely have beyond small one-off things. So we're open to any strategy to get different kinds of people in different parts of Kingston and beyond to donate. So let's definitely talk about it at our next committee meeting.
Okay. We'll do that.
I think we probably also need to talk about like if we're trying to do individual board member goals, because 50,000 is a big number. But when we divide it up, I'd say let's try to have an answer for everybody by next board meeting so we can.
And the best part about it is that you can create your own goal on GiveGab. So you don't have to be alone, right? It doesn't have your meeting your board give can be done in so many different ways. It can be, a personal check or a fundraiser.
Right. Yeah. And we know we can do it because we already did it last year. It was amazing. And I think we didn't really start that in earnest until September.
It was probably October was the first event with the Kingston Show House. And then we have a couple of reoccurring donations, which are great. And then the full campaign went out December 15th. Now, granted, we had already had some nice donations, and the Kingston Show House was nice because there was also a MASH component, but that ramp up was the last 2 weeks of December.
So we have months.
Yeah, we can exceed the goal.
I like it. Cool. Anything else on fundraising? Okay, communications, Minya, got the floor.
All right, so first I'll start just with the basics and then I'll go into another thing. For communications, we have been doing a high level amount of outreach and are going to continue to do more. And one of the things that we do need to address as an organization is the lack thereof of outreach before. And I've talked to people and folks about this on the board before this meeting. It's agreed that there's been a lack thereof, considering that we are a community outreach organization trying to get folks in the community, into Black, Brown community, the Midtown community, as everyone always says, or, there's not been enough outreach to that community up until this point. And I know this, as we know, as we're handing out flyers and we're reaching out to community members, they don't know who we are. And they don't know anybody who's on the board, except now they know William. William's a longtime community member. Everybody knows William. But before this point, the outreach has been dismal, to say the least, and I'm not pointing fingers at this current moment, but it does need to be addressed to the community. I don't know if anyone out there is listening, but at this point, I do feel like it just needs to be acknowledged, because it's a huge gap in terms of where we're going out there. And so, I don't get the sense that anybody's been out to certain places like Colonial Gardens or Rondout Gardens or places in Midtown, or even the businesses that we went to. Nobody's seen us before or doesn't know us. And without trying to go on too long of a tirade or commentary, I do want to say that that's not a great look. And it's a common issue that occurs with organizations, is that the meaning is really good and people join it to do a lot of good for the community, but no one engages with the actual community. And I mean that in the Black and Brown community and the lower income white community as well. that those folks, like if you're on a board, if you're part of an organization and you're working with that community, it's a good idea to get to know folks and like go to the businesses, walk through the community, introduce yourself to folks and do it often, not just once or twice, but so people get to know your face. And that way, then you build that trust you build that trust and actually start having an ongoing rapport. And I brought my friends, people I consider family here, because they should always be part of the conversation. They're people I reach out to on a regular basis to feedback my ideas and make sure that I'm not speaking for people on my own without getting feedback. And that's something that we should have been doing from the beginning. And it's something that wasn't done. And I so don't want to have this conversation right now. I'm so exhausted. I don't want to have it. You know, the board, especially, sorry y'all, but with like white folks, I know y'all, everyone here seems like really great folks. And I like everybody I've met and talked to so far. And I like what we're doing and the focus here is great. But that I have to be the one to talk about how we had a board member who did and exhibited a type of covert racism that is so injurious to the Black and Brown community, that is well-meaning and intended to do good for the community, but ends up shutting down our voices, erasing our existence and our presence, and ends up not actually doing anything for the community because it's a lot of talk. It's common. It's not just one person. It's pervasive among community organizations. It's something that I don't even have to say. I know other people know that this is going on throughout the country, as far as I understand when I talk to other community organizers. And in this circumstance, I had to experience somebody talking over me, talking over William. I'm not going to speak for William in this circumstance. I'm going to speak for my own experience, which is speaking for the Black and Brown community and speaking as if we weren't even present in the room and not consulting with us or talking to us about our take and our experience and our personal experience. I certainly get shut down all the time because I'm so fair-skinned and people don't think I have any experience, but that's still other folks here that had a voice and could have been consulted with and talked over. And it's the kind of thing that doesn't get recognized as legitimate racism because it comes from a progressive side of the community. And yet, at the same time, overt racism is something that's much, in some ways, easier to deal with because you know where it's coming from and you know what to avoid and you know how to stay away from it. Whereas covert racism is this type of exhausting racism that tends to stay close to you because it's trying to help you, speak for you, and do things for the community. And oftentimes, because a lot's being said and not a lot's getting actually done, it's a bigger form of injury to the community. And the issue here is that this is something that oftentimes gets kept quiet. Hold on a second, Ben. Oftentimes gets, we get told to take the higher ground often and be quiet and not rock the boat so that we can just let everything move on and act like nothing happened. And you know what? I can't do it anymore. It's exhausting to do that. And when we do that, we let people get away with that behavior and it continues and the pattern continues. And my personal feeling is like, good intentions can cause a lot of harm without feedback from multiple community members in the Black and Brown community when you're speaking for them. And I keep saying that because I don't want to code it with the term the community. I want to just say it right out as it is. This is what we're dealing with. And this is where we came to the situation we are now, where we are short a board member, because it is not productive to have that kind of voice happening around people who actually are in the community and could be offering the right kind of feedback and actually should have the voice in terms of who we accept funding from, what decisions we make in terms of outreach, and should be the first in line of the discussion. That wasn't incorporated into the last round of the last campaign. Now it is, and we are I am making it a point. I know William is, again, I'm not going to speak for you, William. If you want to speak on this too, I'm happy to have you join the conversation. But now we're doing our best to make sure we have as many people in this community as part of the conversation and to know about us and have feedback, because otherwise it's not, we can't claim to be a great community org. And again, I say, for the most part, everybody I've met so far on this board is great, but we do have to address this head on and can't ignore the problem, because what happens is people end up going somewhere else and causing the harm elsewhere. And to that, I would say to people who do this, I always ask that they please step out of their ego and take a step back and start again and get training in cultural competency ongoing, and take a break from trying to speak for us when we haven't asked you to speak for us or given you that right to do so. Take a break, step back, and just start listening for a while and just hear us, because unless somebody said, yeah, okay, we support you, we're behind you, you are here, you're doing something that's harmful in our presence. And it's not something you tend to see if it's not a lived experience. So I need to address that head on, and I'm just doing that here right now. There was an intention to not say anything and to not bring this up in this conversation. And thank you to Erica for standing by and standing up and to say, no, we have to, because I was too tired to fight at that point, because it's exhausting dealing with this type of racism. It's exhausting. And she got my back and got me back and enough energy to just say this and stand up for myself and to stand up for the community that I passionately love and that I consider my family. And it should be our family too. And, you know, like I would say, like, Aaron, you stepped up and just walked into the park on Saturday, and you just like killed it. You just met everybody and you moved, like you just stepped in. That's how it's supposed to be. And that's what we need as a community org. And that's just not what was happening before. And I think we have that potential here now. So that's what I wanted to say, because that is communications. And I think we just owe the community an apology for not having stepped up as well as we could before. And I just do think we're in a good position to do that now. And that's my talk for comms right now. That does bleed into governance as well. And that means that we do have some spaces available for other board members to come on. I do think we should bring more people to the conversation that are from the Black and Brown community, because that will help continue to keep our outreach accessible and positive. And I do know that we have to go through our standard procedure of opening it up to the community to apply and putting it out there. So that's my talk. Thank y'all for listening.
Just wanted to say thank you. And I know how hard it is to have this conversation. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, sis.
Thank you for that, Minya.
Thank you, sis.
We appreciate you, Minya, and thank you for having her back, because we know it's not easy and we know what's going on out here. And thank you for having the courage to stand up and to put it out there, just so for the betterment, so that you can move along and everybody could be on the same page and realize that the community is the community, and you can't put into perception what you think. There are really people out here that want these homes and that want even a chance to get these homes and don't know about anything that's going on. So I appreciate you and I respect what you did.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have very little to add other than I think this has been a really challenging past week. Minya and Eric, I've spoken to you both separately. I think how you have handled this is admirable. What I just witnessed, I think, is probably the bravest thing I've ever seen somebody do in a public meeting. And I guess I feel like as board chair of this organization since the beginning, fostering an environment that is safe and healthy and inclusive is really of utmost importance. And so for the ways that I'm sure I was blind to some of this or didn't know how to deal with it or whatever, I apologize that this is an environment where you had to take up that fight and do what we just witnessed, which was brave and vulnerable and very hard. And so yeah, I will shut up now.
Thank you, Daniel.
So we have, should we talk about disclosure forms? It feels real weird, but it is on the agenda. Were all the disclosure forms received?
Almost all. I'll email again who didn't send them in, just a couple. So the ones that I did receive have gone on to the attorney.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so as mentioned earlier, we will be going into executive session to discuss a couple of things. It's like a good time for the board to speak openly with each other. And yeah, we
do have some public comment. When do we still have time for public comment in the?
Yeah.
I think some folks would like to speak.
Yeah.
I'd like to say, first of all, thank you, Minya, especially for the transparency and the speaking up. That was definitely very brave of you. I'm a little disappointed to hear this, but I do have some questions because early on in the conversation, and not to point anybody out, but early on in the conversation, the people that qualify for these houses were referred to as those people. I didn't get that. And I think that was probably the wrong word in the pick, because those people, that's been known to happen a lot when it comes to racism. So that kind of concerns me. And the person that came out with it, I'd like for you to maybe address that. And I'm not sure where you were coming from, but that does concern me. At this point, it didn't concern me as much, but given what I'm hearing, it definitely is concerning. Bob?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't realize it was me, and I certainly didn't mean to single out people. Yeah, I didn't mean to single out people as applicants.
Those people are the people that qualify for houses. They shouldn't be referred to as those people.
So you're right. You're right.
Qualified applicants would sound a lot more better, to be honest with you. And I think this is something, the point that Minya made, it. I appreciate the transparency, but this is something that definitely needs to be dealt with and almost immediately, because this is scary. And now I'm not surprised as to why nobody in the community really knows what land bank is or about land bank, because nobody's reaching out to those people until now.
Yeah, you're right. I'm aware of that. I appreciate you pointing it out. I certainly should not have, I should not have referred to applicants, in that kind of a.
Yeah. Especially because a lot of the applicants are Black and brown people, and those people is not a good term to use when you're referring to Black and brown people.
Oh, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Sorry about that.
Can I just ask how many people go out, like are on the outreach? Are you guys all responsible to go out? Or is it just a set group and on your board or committee?
So much like pretty much everything else on the board, it's all volunteer. So the communications committee sort of takes the lead on the sales and marketing and outreach, but all board members are encouraged to go out and flyer or attend events or we're now able to be at the farmers market and the Midtown market. And so that opportunity is open to everybody.
Okay, so would you say that's part of the problem? That there's not enough people going out? Like that's why it was narrowed down to who knew about this? I just, like I said, I appreciate, and we don't want to keep on nailing it home, but you don't understand how important it is when I received the flyer and when I took extras and I'm handing it out around where I stay to people. And like Minya has mentioned and others, no one knows. And they're like, where did you get this from? And how is there? And there are a lot of complexes. And if we're going to have this open discussion, once the word get out, you should have more people engaging and coming on and possibly wanting to be part of these Zoom events. So everything that Liz said, I second that, what she mentioned to you, Bob, because that was very offensive. And I really wanted to know who those people that you were referencing to also. And that's not going to work well with the community. So I know you said that you acknowledge it, but I hope you really take in what is being said, because it's bad enough that people are living in low income, housing. They want to get out. They don't want people next door hearing what they have to say, and to hear being referenced as that will make people shy away, or it will make it, what you're trying to do is a good thing, but it very well will turn bad when you're offending people. So those people, and like Liz said, she gave you the appropriate word, and I think maybe you should steal that and use that in reference next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique.
Just to address the question, I think having more people is always helpful. All the boarders, volunteers, some people work very, very hard. And all of us, I think, work very, very hard, but sometimes setting aside, extra time on the weekends and things is really challenging. So we're absolutely looking for more community involvement, I think. I definitely don't want to make excuses about deficiencies in our outreach in the first round. I think it was our very first time doing it. It was high pandemic time. There were a lot of challenges, and I think for any organization, getting the word out and getting people familiar with.
I'm getting ready to, I have to step away, but I don't want to leave without saying thank you to Mike, because Mike came out, he gave out flyers, he canvassed, and he warmed up and got to know people, introduced himself, and did a great job. So I don't want to leave that out. You did an awesome job. So I appreciate you for that, and I appreciate you, Minya. But I'm going to have to go. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Liz.
Oh, Dan, I know you want to say something, Rita, but I just want to say, Daniel, I hear what you're saying about people have jobs, and I'm looking at people's faces in shock right now. But I hear what you're saying about people have jobs. But like you also said, there's a lot of people that do have jobs and have sit on more than one board. So saying that to the community is also like an excuse. And I'm not trying to be hard on you. I'm just trying to say that this is so needed, and that you do have a deadline of June 14th. And for the fact that it is like the 20-something of May, and people in my community, my area, are just finding out. And then I am taking flyers to other communities, to my friends that live in other places, and they're looking like, where did you get this? So yeah, I know the pandemic was here and everything, and I know you're probably saying they're doing all this talk and why don't they help? Well, I am, without being on the board. I just took a bunch of them because no one knew, and that was a shocker to me that nobody knew. And I thank Minya for addressing this and bringing this to light, because I wouldn't have known it if she didn't ask us and send us and say, do you guys have this, or do you hear this?
Understood. I hear you. Thank you.
So I want to piggyback both sides and acknowledge for board structure, you have typically at least 9 board members, and then there's several committee groups that are stretched out, and you typically get about 4 to 5 if you're lucky in order to meet the committee needs. So with this board, it is a small working board for 4 years now. So, and because of the change in the board structure, there has been movement within the committees. There's not to say that the community outreach has been poor, but this is also a new organization. I do want to remind people that despite what are the current discussion that I feel very strong for, it is very hard to have a brand new organization and meet all of the goals immediately. The most important thing is having this conversation and making sure that there's transparency and acknowledging some of the things that fell short and then the change and the actions that come out of it. A lot of work happens in the background in order to get these houses completed. A lot of long calls, Mike, Owen, Kyle, we can attest to that. And I have seen, working as a CFO with the organization, I have seen the other side. So I just want to make it very clear that a lot of work goes into completing this, but we just have to step up our community outreach and make sure that now that we know better, we do better.
Yes, could I just say a comment, please? Thank you. Just a couple of things. One, to Minya, thank you, Minya. I know that was hard. I heard it in your voice. I know it was very hard, but thank you for your courage. The other thing is, I don't want the land bank to know that your work does not go unnoticed. Actually, got a chance to witness one of the houses being sold, a couple of houses down from me. Daniel actually was on me, texting me and calling me, this is what's happening, this is what's happening. And he invited me to go down to the house and see the construction and progress and the finished product. And then the ceremony that was held when the homeowners actually bought the house. So your work does not go unnoticed. And also the other thing, with any organization, outreach can always be better. I think that, you guys are not in the box by yourself. It's all of our boards and commissions. It's very hard to get volunteers. And as Erica said, when we know better, we do better. And I think that's what the goal is going forward. And also wanted you to know that, while I'm not on this board and while I sit on every board imaginable right now, any flyers and any outreach that you would like me to do in my community, please feel free to call on me and say, I got some flyers, I got this, or we're having a meeting, this, that, or the other. Please feel free to call on me so I can help with those efforts, because there's so many people that need to be put in houses right now that I think if all of us work together, that we'll go ahead and get to the goal of what we're trying to accomplish here. And also, thank you very much for letting me sit in on this. I know it was tough at some points of it, so I do appreciate the transparency as well.
Thank you, Rita. Please come back. We love having you here. You don't have enough to do, right? You definitely want to come to these meetings. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rita. And I just hope people that are okay, that have more people at the table at our meetings in the future, I think is a good idea, because as we bring up changes with the organization, to have that immediate feedback is really helpful for, and so it's something I hope to keep doing, and having people being able to speak at our meetings in the future, so.
I worked really hard on that board package. So like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube. If you can't make our meetings, they are public on YouTube, and there's a wealth of information there. There's a wealth of information also on the website, and please just encourage everyone to be part of this.
We could get our first subscriber ever. This goes viral.
We don't have any subscribe. Oh,
0.
I'll subscribe. Okay. So I guess, design committee. That's me, me and Nate. So we'll be meeting with Katie Dwyer sometime this month to redesign the logo, to start the process of redesigning the logo, which I think will be very exciting. Legacy Cities designs, like I mentioned earlier, got a little slightly more complicated because of the historic review stuff. But so I had the pleasure of pulling together paint palettes for 3 houses like this, and it was very exciting for me. So we might be painting East Union at like a light pink, just in case anyone's curious. Seemed about time we had a pink house. And so those things will be approved. Otherwise, I don't think we're calling it owner supplied since we're partners, but basically we're doing very, very similar to what we've already been doing, where the land bank is speccing and purchasing somehow not purchasing, well.
Point of order, I don't think that we're purchasing for this round. I think we're speccing.
We're just
That'll be the
okay. So basically what we've done is like, we did this on Greenkill and Franklin, and basically there's a budget for on those 2 houses, owner supplied materials. On these 2 houses, it's basically just fixtures and finishes. So saves us some money with the architect to not have to do that work, takes the guesswork out of the contractor. I think it's made our lives a little easy, at least in my view, a lot easier to just be buying this stuff and not kind of going through multiple levels of dealing with the contractors in their back end and orders getting missed or things not being bought or things being bought wrong or whatever. I think it's, so yeah, Owen's done an amazing job with that. So that process is ongoing. 4 houses, it's a lot of houses, but that'll be fine. So I think that's it on that. So I think I would like to entertain a motion to move into executive session. Executive session means that we have to say goodbye to our members of the public. However, they can rejoin the meeting once we leave executive session. The purpose of executive session tonight is to discuss personnel and potential legal stuff. And I believe that's the things that I'm supposed to say before we vote to go into executive session.
Good night, all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us.
Good night. Thank you for allowing us here. Good night.
Thank you.
Good
Night.
Oh, always welcome back. Thank you.
Please, yeah.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Anesh.
Yep.
Bye, Anesh.
I'll move to end executive session and go back to the public portion of our meeting.
Second.
In favor of ending executive session?
Aye.
And passes unanimously. Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's so nice to be back in the public. As beautiful as we remember it. Okay, so we have a second public comments period, but we no longer have any members of the public, so I think it's safe to skip. And then there's new business. I only really have one piece, which is to say that Mike just celebrated his 2nd year anniversary as our executive director. It cannot be said enough how much work this man does and the extent to which he has really made all of this possible and turned that ship around real fast. So I am hugely appreciative of Mike. It's an honor and a privilege, and please stay as long as, at least as long as I stay.
Please do, yes.
Other new business. Well, then I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Any discussion, Bob? All in favor of adjournment? All right, motion passes. Thank you, everybody.
Yes.
See you on committee.
Okay,
Right.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Night, everybody.